Okay, well, hello everyone. Welcome back to the second tutorial. This is Garuga123, and gonna mute my Twitch so I'm not hearing myself. So this is gonna be the animation tutorial for walking, I guess. I adjusted the audio, so hopefully it sounds a little better. You don't have to crank up your volume like with the first one. So let's get started. Let's go to open. Oh, and I'm at the croc. So if you happen to use another project, you'll just want to change it back to the one we were working with. So go set project. And then ours was... I actually forgot what we called it. I think it was just Dino Rig. So set. Oops. Yep. Oh, okay, so I forgot to mention something very important last time. Saving. So Maya can crash. It can crash suddenly, or something could have happened that made it crash. So you want to save often. So I save incrementally. So if I'm doing like a long, like let's say a walk animation, and I'm not really sure where I want to take it, I'll save. So it's like walk animation underscore feet complete, or body complete, and I'll save kind of as I go in separate files. So I'll just open this one as an example. The idle from the first one. So this was our idle that we did for the first tutorial. So it still looks good. So you would go to save scene as for if you want to save a separate one, or if you just want to save over to make sure you keep your changes. Just save and make sure, whether it's incrementally or otherwise, save often, because very few things suck more than doing like a huge change in Maya and then it just is deleted. It just crashes on you. So I've definitely forgotten to save before. I've like gotten into working, and then 3 or 4 hours later it just closes. It's like, okay, well, that was 4 hours of time wasted. Anyway, so I'm gonna show you guys something else I figured out. So while I was working on Indominus, I realized there is a better texture or material you can be using for display. So if we select our mesh, you might have to go to the little channel box down here, layer editor, and disable it. So you just double click or whatever, you just remove that R. So, and then once we do that, we can just click our mesh, go to attribute editor on the right here, and then we're going to hit this little arrow and just hold that and go all the way to the right. And you'll see there's Dino Rig body, and this is our material. So here you'll see there's type, and it's probably going to be blinn. So I've realized blinn actually can cause some visual problems with normal maps. So what you want to do is, if you scroll up a little, you'll see something called Stingray PBS. And in my opinion, just from using it like twice, this material is way better. So here you'll notice the layout for material is slightly different. So we're going to check use color map, use normal map, roughness, and AO map, which is our ambient occlusion. So once we do that, we'll come down here to textures, and then you'll see these little UV boxes, and that's where we plug in our textures. So if we click that, it'll immediately take us to our little file. So we'll go to Dino Rig textures, grab our diffuse, plug that in. And then if we hit this bottom box, it'll take us one step back in the editing. So Now we go to normal map, do the same thing, plug that in, step back, and roughness in this case would be our specular. So if we select that one, there we go. And then you can choose if you want sort of a weird like secondary effect on there. I don't really know why you would. So that's why I turned ambient occlusion on, so that it removes that. You can scale the intensity if you want, but that doesn't seem to change anything, so just kidding. So in this case we have kind of a very wet dinosaur, but you can see the actual details kind of brought out a little more. And then we can do that for the teeth and claws as well, which for some reason aren't being affected. Yeah, very strange. Unless they are and I just can't tell. Oh, yeah, maybe they are. The color is just very gray. Then we can select our eye too, if you want to get the detail in that going. We'll do the same thing. Go to Dino Rig Eye, you'll see the material. We're going to change blend to Stingray PBS. Plug those in, and I think I don't think the eye has any normal map. Yeah, it's just a specular and a regular color. So plug those in. Bam. So now the textures on our dino looks much better. It does look very wet, but for some reason I'm not able to edit this roughness value. Here I'm gonna play with it a little. Very strange. Okay. Well, I guess you don't necessarily need the specular. If you want just that littlest bit of lighting detail, you can adjust that just the slightest. Yeah, we don't need metallic. I wish the intensity for that was less. So if you want, in this case, we can just turn off roughness. I just plugged it in the ambient occlusion to see how that looks, and it's fine. So there you go. Better textures on our dinosaur. That made the teeth really weird. Never mind. I'm gonna turn that off. Why did the teeth get so weird? I guess that's because of the ambient occlusion. So in this case, if I want to remove that, right click, and I'll do break connection. There you go, that fixed it. So I'm just going to turn off roughness and turn off ambient occlusion as well. So that gives me enough depth. Looks a little weird. So it's kind of your preference, however you want it to look. So I think that's fine. So with that done, I'll go to File, Save. Cool. Okay. So now that we have the idle done, which we did last week, my workflow or pipeline for making these game animations is once I have the idle done, then what I do, and you might have it set to 60 FPS still, change it back to 24, and then just fill those frames. Because sometimes if you have these adjusted and you change, it gives you decimal numbers, which can kind of screw you up. So it's good for previewing if you want to change it to 60, but for working or otherwise, just keep it at 24. So we're going to resave that because I think it's saved at 60. Okay. Now, once we have our idle animation, what I do, this is our base animation. So for a character that, in this case, is just terrestrial, it doesn't fly, it doesn't have a flying idle or a swimming idle, this is going to be the pose it reverts to whenever it is not walking, it is not attacking, what have you. So because of that, we kind of want to make a sort of T-pose, or basically a base from where all the other animations start. So what we're going to do, save it again, just to be sure. So right now we have our tutorial idle. So now we're going to do save scene as, and we're going to call this tutorial, or whatever you want to call it, underscore base in all caps. Oh, you know what? I'm sorry. I'm getting ahead of myself. So when... Okay, actually, no, I'm not. Just kidding. A little hyper today, so I apologize. Okay, so we're going to do tutorial base. Save as. Continue. And that's going to give us, if we go to open scene, that's going to give us two things. So we're going to have idle, and then we're going to have underscore base, which is the same exact thing right now. And what that does is when we save as, it changes the actual file that's open. So now we are no longer editing the idle. We are editing the underscore base, which is, that's good if you want to make changes or make a separate animation. So now that we've done that, we're going to go to show, and we're going to turn on NURBS curves to bring our controllers back. And also turn off the geometry, just so we don't accidentally select that. So with that, what we want to do is we want to make a base pose that we can pretty much do that same thing. We can open it, and then we can save as, and we can start a new animation. And all of our keys are exactly the same as this first frame. So we're going to click drag, and we're going to highlight every curve that we have here. And then I have my graph editor over in this window, but you'll see there's big crazy lines coming up. Then what we can do actually is the graph ender will come in handy. Is we want to delete all of these keys except for the keys on frame 1. So hopefully, I'm going to just do this off screen just to make sure I didn't do something crazy here. I'm going to click drag. Here, I'll show what I'm doing. So I click dragged every keyframe that is not on 1. I'm going to do that again for every key. Okay, and so I do that. Hopefully, let me see. I hit delete. Okay, so you see that did reset some of our poses, so that's not good. So I'm going to Control Z, bring that back up. I want to deselect some of these things. I don't know why the eye is part of that. So if you want to focus on an item too and have your camera pivot around it, if you hit the F key, so I just did, that way your camera will actually pivot around it, which is nice. Okay, so I can't, okay. So the eyes and tongue, for some reason, are not part of the mesh. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click this Albertosaurus Geo. I'm going to highlight it, right click, and I'm going to do Add Selected Objects. So what that did was those objects I had highlighted, except for the tongue apparently, were added, there we go, to that geometry. So now I can no longer select them. So hopefully now, except sometimes it doesn't care. You know what? I think that might be the eye shell. So what I'm going to do, go, whoops, shift click that minus, minimize that. Okay. So now we have our geometry. Apparently the eye is not part of that geometry. Very strange. Okay. Well, anyway, we can ignore that for now. So what I want to do, I want to select all of these, just all of the curves. And then at frame 1, I'm going to hit the S key. So that got rid of the tail again for some reason. Same problem as last time. Not sure why that is happening, but it's very irritating. Well, honestly, I can't tell you why that tail keeps disappearing, but I can tell you it's very annoying. Oh boy. Alright, if I Control Z, will it come back? Nope, it does not come back. Okay. Well, if you're having the same problems as me, you can just go tutorial base, open, don't save, since that's the file we're working with. Then once that's open, we'll go to show, turn our curves back on. Okay, let me figure out where these tails are showing up. Okay. Don't know what's up with that. Anyway. So now we can just select, oh, whoops. Restrict our mesh. Hide all of that. If you want, you can come in here and deselect these. It's not really too big of an issue. And we deselect by holding shift when we click. Okay, so now, bet you the tail's gonna disappear again. Gonna hit S again. It actually did, Jesus Christ. Okay, so if your tail's disappearing, these are the tail curves. For some reason, keyframing them seems to turn this one on, and that turns them all off. If you just highlight them all, and you do Control H, which is the key for hiding, and then you do Shift H, that seems to bring them back. I don't know why that's happening, but that seems to fix it. So, once we key everything, you can make sure nothing is messing up because of the keys. Everything's good. Cool. So now in our graph editor, wait. Yeah, I need everything highlighted again. Okay. So now with everything highlighted, we're going to go to our graph editor and we're going to do that same thing we did before. So highlight everything, all the keys that we have. Okay, so that should be everything. And then with our graph editor highlighted, we're going to hit delete. And for some reason, that is still resetting this. Okay. Let us try show none, and we'll show only curves. Like that tail that's not showing up. Okay. Now, when we select them all, actually just to be safe, I'm gonna reopen the scene yet again. I apologize for not understanding what's going on myself. I'm the one that should be teaching here. You know, weird things happen. Sorry. So now we have only NURBS curves showing. Highlight them all. And we're going to hit S. Going to do this to bring the tail back. I don't know why the tail disappears. That's really annoying. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is here, and we can turn this on too. If we want to. How did the eye get highlighted? It's not even a curve. Whatever. So now in Graph Editor, I'm only going to highlight the ones in front. Hit delete. Man, for some reason, this rig is very unfriendly. Yeah, what a bizarre rig. Okay. So, for the sake of this rig, what I'm trying to show you does not seem to care. So let's see. Sorry, I'm going to be working alongside all of you on this one. Polygons. I'll try highlighting those first ones. Okay, so now with those selected, can I hit delete? Okay, that messed nothing up. What about these? Can I hit delete? That messed nothing up. Okay, it is just that mouth control. And I said this last time, normally you can just rotate like that. This one is dumb, and you can't for some reason. All the controls are here. So, what I just did, was this joint even, is I selected all the curves, so I turned off polygons, highlighted, turn them back on to make sure no changes were happening. And then I selected pretty much all the color values, all the translates and rotates. Some of these joints have these white values, which for everything else, that seemed fine to delete, but can't delete the mouth one, because that just screws you over. So, with that done, if we hit play, our character should be absolutely static. Excuse me. And this is what we want. Because this is our base pose. So with that, I'm going to move these windows over. I'm going to save again. Just regular save. And now from here we have, this is the same exact pose as our idle animation. So now if we wanted to make an attack animation, we would animate right out of that pose. Our frame 1 would stay exactly the same. And then our last frame, doesn't have to be 60, could be anything, would also be exactly the same. So we'd kind of do the same thing. So I'm going to turn the tail back on. So let's say we wanted a bite animation. That was 60 frames, exactly the same as our idle. So with all the joints selected, after you animate, you could, all the joints selected, you right click, go to copy, and then you would just paste it the last frame. And then once we do that, then all the in-betweens, it'll go into the bite and it'll slowly fade. Actually, I'm gonna just do an attack animation for this tutorial in addition to the walk, just so I can show you what I'm talking about. So everything should still be static. Good. Okay. So I'm gonna do attack animation. If we're gonna just do a regular bite, it wouldn't be that long. So I'll say maybe 40 frames. So I'm gonna change my slider to 40. Then I'm just gonna start animating. It's kind of, turn on the restriction. It's sort of preference at this point again when you're animating a character. So for this, okay, so he has some pretty good head controls. So I'm going to go to the side here. So frame 1, so let's say 10 maybe, this is when the head starts to rear back for the bite. Rotate it down a little bit. And then we'll say 20. Actually, we're going to move this forward a bit. Let's say 16. Then we'll make 25. Ooh, his neck is very strange there. It's very unnatural. No matter. And then I guess that'll be where the head ends when the bite finishes. And then we would just copy this again. Go back here. What you can do also for the base animation, when I selected every curve and hit S, that's just kind of a fail-safe. There's obviously curves I never touched for the idle, so their translates and rotates never changed. So you can always skip that step of framing every curve, and you can still highlight every curve and remove the keys and the graph like I did. And that'll do the exact same thing because, you know, those other parts didn't have any keys, so they never actually changed. Now, in some cases, like if you're creating a smooth animation and there isn't, we kind of did like a, oops, my headset got tangled, I'm sorry. If we have an animation before frame 1 and after, but not on, then in that case, we would want to do that and key. So that's why I say it's a fail-safe. If, like, say there's a joint you forgot you did that for, that's just to ensure that you have some kind of key on that first one. Anyway, so now we have a bite. And then I'm actually going to shorten this because I think that's a little slow. So maybe 9. Bring that back to 16, and then I'm going to bring this to 24. Then change my slider. Okay, so that's a decent enough speed for a bite. So now I'll do some minor adjustments to the head motion. So now when it starts to go forward, I'm going to turn it up. Afterward, do a little swing down for momentum. Cool. That's a little fast. And then we can actually change the rotate key here. So in this case, if I want the that sudden head rotation up to be a little smoother, I can go over to my graph editor. So this seems to be the rotate X axis. And then I can select that key and just scooch it forward a bit. There we go. So that looks a lot smoother. So now with that, grab our silly jaw. Curious, if I select all these, can I? What was that even the controls for? So weird. Okay. Well, that worked. Well, there is some kind of weird rotate option. So now we're gonna do our mouth open stuff. So right before it actually starts to go forward is when the mouth would open. So we can key here to S. And then the height of our bite. The open mouth would probably start at about 11 or 12. So we'll do mouth open. Or it won't change at all. Did the thing I just delete ruin it? Nope, this is just a really weird rig. Man, guys, I don't know what this is about, but I'm not liking this jaw stuff going on this character. I cannot tell you why it's not working. I just don't get it. Side to side works. Mouth open does not, for some reason. Can I unlock this? Is it locked? It's not locked. That's the tongue curl, twist, side to side. Is that nothing? Mouth open. Yeah, very strange. It does not want to open the mouth. Okay. Maybe it's just one of those changes that doesn't adjust. Sorry guys, I'm trying to figure out how I can work around this annoying jaw mechanic that they have going on this rig. I actually don't remember how to get to the channels, unfortunately. So that's the head. So what I'm doing here. Hi Teeny. Whoops. Ooh, don't want that. Crap. Okay. I just made my outliner really weird. So what I'm doing, I can't guarantee this will work, so don't exactly do what I'm doing. Is I'm going to the actual joint here. So this is the curve that's controlling the jaw. and it is the actual joint is parented to this. So what I'm doing is I'm selecting these, and I'm gonna middle mouse click and hold, and I'm gonna drag them to that head joint. And what that did was that reparented these objects to that joint. So now, in theory, that curve still does something, still has influence. Just kidding. Still can't do anything. Okay, so that didn't work, so I'm just going to Control Z that. Yeah, sorry guys. I don't know why this jaw is so difficult. I've personally, I've never experienced a rig that has done this for a jaw. It's usually just grab that, open, close. It's so simple. I don't know why they felt the need to create a channel for it. Let me see if I can. I'm gonna do some Google foo. Just right click in the channel box. Go down to editors, which I don't have. It's just anywhere in the channel box. Okay. Channel control. There we go. Okay. Locked. So we're gonna unlock those. Close. And then let's see if we can show. Still not showing them. So let's try that again. Channel control locked. Okay, there, our rotates are back. Holy crap. Okay, so I went to edit, channel control, and then you'll see there's a keyable and locked. So your rotate values are going to be unlocked. So then you want to highlight them and choose move, and then same thing in keyable, and you just want to move them over to here. So now that nonsense is out of the way. So now you'll see I have this curve selected. Man, so easy. Why can't I do that the entire time? We're going to hide this mouth open nonsense. Lock and hide. Jesus. Okay. So, well, I guess everybody learned something new today. Now, that nonsense is out of the way. Finally got our mouth controls. So, oh, I didn't need the exit outliner. Oops, I'm just going to move that to my other window. So now that we have that selected, it's keyed at the first frame. Hit S. Cool. Let me make sure that is indeed our rotate X. Let's say 7 is when it will start to open. 12 will be the peak. Cool. And then once the head starts moving forward and there's just that momentum rotation, the head stopping is probably where the actual bite would stop. So we'll say 16. And then to make it easy, we'll just go back up here, hit 0. Whoops, that's actually not the closed. So we'll do that on 19, I guess. Or to make it easy, we can go here. Paste. Do same thing here. Now if you want for a little added motion, like a 19 or 20, we can do like kind of a, like catching his grip sort of opens to adjust. So we don't need that. Looks like he's kind of got a clacky jaw, so I'll just get rid of that. Cool. Man, wasn't that so easy to not have a mouth controlled stupid channel? So, now that we have that, that's pretty much the bite, honestly. We can do a little more tweaks if we wanted to, like if we wanted to rotate the head on the way down. So blue, that is our rotate Z axis. So here, because we hit S, it keyed everything. So we can delete some of those. So let's say right there. So we'll delete the ones around that. And then we'll just, here we can grab that one. And this is zoomed out a lot. So let's say we want to rotate the head kinda when he bites. And same for rotate Y. So that one's going that way. There we go. So now we got a nice little head rotation. Not necessary, but you know, it adds to it. And this is just a really simple bite. This is only using the head. Now you'll notice I have nothing else animated. When you're importing this as a character into, we'll say, Unreal or the dev kit, most of your attack animations, unless you want them to be like a full body, like if they're spinning or jumping or something, they'll be what's known as additive animations. So what those do is when they execute, it basically applies the keyframes that are keyed for that specific animation, and it kind of adds them on top of whatever animation is currently playing. So in this case, we have our little bite, which we can do some shoulder movement if we wanted to, like that. I'm not going to do that. But, so you got the bite. So if our character was idle, or if they were walking, it would just add this on top of that, basically. So the walk would continue, it wouldn't phase it or anything. So that's how additives work. So in this case, because I'm a perfectionist, you know, that movement is kind of unnatural. So I'm going to actually adjust the hip too. So we'll say 10, because it's not going to go exactly the same time as the neck. It's going to fall after. And we'll go down. And then we'll reset. So copy, paste. Much better, right? So same with that. Even if the legs are walking, that hip motion will be added on top. So it will actually bend down like that in the middle of a walk, in the middle of whatever. So you can do stuff with like legs, but that's normally you would want to do full body animations for that, because that can mess up a walk cycle. Like if I were to have the foot stepping forward during the bite when it's in the middle of walking, that may really screw up the actual how the walk looks. So you would want to save those for full animations. Since I have it open, I'm just going to tweak this animation some more, make it nicer. Show the tail, because the tail keeps hiding for some reason. So we'll go to 4 here. Key that solid. 11. And paste. Now we're going to do that tail life hack that I showed last time. Reselect all the keys from the first one. Copy. Oops. Make sure you hit copy. And then we're going to do the same thing on these ones. We're just going to paste down the line. Now, you'll notice in doing this, I'm screwing up the frame 1 of our animation. So this is okay, because in Unreal animations, when they start, they'll blend. So if we're idle and the tail is straight out, it's not gonna suddenly go to a curved tail in one frame. That won't happen. So that'll depend on your blend time. I guess after I do this animation tutorial, I'll do an Unreal tutorial on stream as well. So now we can select all of these. Go to our graph editor. And then we only adjusted the X value. So we're going to bring those up. Say right here is good. Okay. So that's fine. And then, like, if you want to change kind of when it plays, so let's say this one. I wonder why it selects all of them. Man, I'm realizing this is a very bizarre rig, you guys. Huh, okay. Well, that's very confusing. So we want 5. Okay, so it's the first one down the chain. Is that what's going on? Yeah. Okay. So 5, rotate X. And then we can move these forward just a tad if we wanted to, or back. Yeah, so back. Let's see. So it's not really changing much, so don't worry about that. Because this is a very quick animation. So easy. Now we have an attack. And it looks alright. So now that's done. Go save scene as. So remember as, because right now we're still in that base. So once you start adjusting that base animation to be a different animation, save it as something else. Usually when I'm going to start working on a completely new one, I'll immediately save it as new right then and there. So this will be tutorial underscore attack underscore bite. Now we have our bite animation. Okay, so now the big one. So now a walking animation. These take a very long time because I'm a perfectionist, and that destroys your life. And I'm drinking the soda. So, oh boy. Open scene, tutorial base. So now we have our neutral animation again. So, if we select these, let's see, not our geometry. Here, I'm gonna, without any changes done, I'm gonna save scene so that our base has the geometry locked. So now we got everything keyed. Oh, and I got rid of the rotates too. Okay. So, before I continue, because we don't want to deal with this nonsense again, let's see. Mouth open, lock, and hide, please. I'm going to go to edit, channel control. We're going to find rotate XYZ, and we're going to move to the side here. Then we can select them, right click, unlock. There we go. So we'll notice the closed we chose for default. It's -25, so just keep that in mind. So, gonna save again, because this is our base, and we want that locked down. Okay. So, like I was saying before, you want to save this to something new as quickly as possible, or as soon as possible rather, so you don't mess this up by accident, because I've done that before. So we want to do a walk animation. So without making any actual changes to the keyframes, everything should be on frame 1. Everything should be good. Yep. We're going to save scene as, and we are going to immediately change this. So tutorial move underscore ground forward FWD. Save. And now it has changed the file to our move ground forward. So now we can make those key changes that we want. And you're not tampering with the base animation by accident or anything. Okay. Moving animations take a long time. I'm not really sure where to start. So for a game ready walk, you typically just want one cycle of motion. So we would have each foot do its cycle, and then the end animation would be the beginning of that next one. So let's say as a base pose, since we don't need to worry about them coming out of idle, we're going to move this foot forward quite a bit. Move it over there. We're going to hit S. And we're going to move this one back. Actually, going to move this one to the side just a tad. Cool. Okay. So our character is a little tall. We don't want that super straight leg. So we're actually going to bring this down just a bit. There we go. That looks much better. S. So at this point, we for walking animations and things that don't really reset the loop back to idle, we kind of want to get our full pose going from the beginning. So let's see. Is this the knee or the hip? Whoa, that's a weird control. That's the knee. Okay. Very interesting. Okay, so that should be good for now. We'll do these tweaks later. So for this animation, I'm going to say, to be safe, maybe 40 frames. So for a walking animation, it depends on the character, obviously, or the type of creature it is. But for this one, when walking, and this rule is pretty universal for most things. Like, I'm sure there's a few exceptions that I can't name right now because I can't think of them. But for a walk, there is going to be a point where both feet are on the ground, and only one foot will be off the ground at any given time. For running animations, there is a point where all feet will be off the ground at some point. It may not be long, but it happens. So that is a big importance to keep in mind when animating walking and running. So this is going to be pretty slow. So, and then remember, we can adjust when the keyframes actually occur, so we can kind of just play around with the timing here. So I'm going to say the foot gets picked up around here. Where did my graph editor go? There we go. I'm actually going to change my translate X. I want my feet to get as close to the middle as possible, but to not intersect. So 3 seems to be a pretty good value. So we're going to key 3 across this whole thing. And then this will just be the reverse. So positive 3. Yep. So now when our walk goes, okay. So keep in mind, this probably won't happen, having the very middle of the time slider being when the foot gets back here. It'll probably be more up this way. So we're going to shift click that, just drag this, let's say, I don't know, let's just say 10 to be safe. So that's very quick. So maybe we'll say 20. And I'll just adjust this to 50. And we'll copy this. And when I do feet animations like this, I normally get the actual movement along the ground first before I actually start picking up the foot, because that can just get you confused. So 35 is a good middle here. So this is where I will pick up the foot. And the foot will also swing around here. So 35. So you see how the foot is breaking at the back here? That wouldn't be happening. So our graph editor, see that blue is pretty even. So I'm actually going to bring this even more back so it'll look more like that. Because the foot's going to swing up more like that. So we can actually move these forward some. We can probably get rid of this. And then we'll actually have the pickup start around the middle. And then right before the actual footfall, it'll still be somewhat high. And it'll also begin its movement back at the footfall. So we're going to do kind of the tail thing I did before. We're going to highlight everything, copy, and then at the last frame we're going to paste. And what that does, I think I showed this for idle too, is that I'll make those keyframes carry on after, and that will adjust these respective curves. How does that look from the front? I didn't even check. Yeah, that looks fine. So now I'm going to kind of mess with this a little bit. So I'm going to hit play so I can actually see it scrub while I go. So we'll adjust that. So same thing with the foot actually coming down. It's not really gonna stop and then just start going again. It's gonna kind of start going back before it actually hits the ground. So in this case, if we wanted to, we can adjust this just the slightest forward. So that looks a little better. Do it some more. And then we can adjust these lift backs too, so we can bring them back like they were before. So when the leg picks itself up to swing around, it kind of turns abruptly. So we can do a keyframe at 20 here for translate X. So if we go to translate X, you'll see it just kind of suddenly picks up. So we can actually do that for both of these. We're going to drag them forward a little bit, so that before it actually picks up, it starts to segue that way. Do it a little more. Cool. Now that we've done that, we can, since this is a pretty simple rig, actually copy all of these, and we're going to paste it over to the other foot. Now you'll notice, because things like translate Z are different, it is going to really mess this up. So let's see if we paste, and just make sure I'm not overwriting other stuff. So paste. I'm not even sure what happened here. I'm going to delete everything. Let's see, Control Z. Copy all of that. Let's go back here. Paste. Very strange. I wonder why it only does half of them. Man, what a weird rig, you guys. Well, Okay, we're going to delete those keys. Let's see. If we select this, and then I just select rotate, can I copy just those? Let's see. Does that adjust it for you? And I'm going to go frame 1, paste. Okay, well that seemed to work. Don't know why it was being so weird before. Okay, so now that we've done that, we can highlight all that. Make sure everything is copied properly. Paste, blah, blah, blah. So before we continue, we need to adjust this translate X because that is going to be reversed. So the foot is a lot more forward. I wonder why. Wonder why these values are changing. It's so weird. Oh, that's why. 1, 2, 4, I think is how stepped forward it is. Yeah. That's why. Okay. Okay. So we want to change this X value. So you can either go here and change each frame individually, or we can go to the graph editor. But since this is a flat value, it would be easier to do it that way. So let's see. Yeah, and then it also reverses it, so it's a little weird. So here, just so I can show you, because I'm going to assume you guys understand what I mean by that one. I'm going to do the graph editor way. So I'm going to go to graph editor, grab this translate X, which is the one we want to change, and I'm going to hit the scale tool here. And what I'll do is I'll highlight all of these, and then at our base, which is that, I'm going to reverse the scale. So let's see, our peak is at 4.5 here, and I'm gonna zero this out just about. So our peak is 7.5. So I'm going to switch to scale. And at about the base, I'm going to go there. I'm going to hold shift middle click. And then you'll see I'm actually scaling based on where I was before. So that's about our peak, right? Yeah, so Control Y to redo. Do that same thing, just to make sure. Yep. Give me 1 sec, it's my father. Hello? Hey, what's up? Okay. Can you text it to me? Okay, thank you. Good. I'm doing my stream right now, actually. I'm doing my stream right now. Yep. Yeah. Bye. Sorry about that. Okay. Turn my fan on. It's getting hot in my room. Okay, so I was reversing this. So now that we did that, we can scale this back down to where we would want. So I'm gonna pretty much make the inverse of it. So that's about where it is, right? So you'll see this should be pretty parallel. Cool. So we don't want our dinosaur playing hopscotch unless you were making a kangaroo dinosaur. So what we're going to do here, so with that other foot selected, is we're going to kind of adjust these so that they're basically playing opposite to each other. So I'll drag that about there. So the thing here is, remember, like I said, there's a point where both feet are always on the ground. So this is too symmetrical, if that makes sense. So if we look at the animation here, it picks up at around 20, and then it's in the air for 30 frames, basically. So that's way too many. So what we're going to do with that, what can we do with that? There's a few things we could do. We want the ground time to be longer, and we want that air time to be shorter. So to be honest, it might be better to actually restart this, since it didn't take long in the first place. So I'm going to remove those. Whoops. Okay, and then I'm going to adjust these. So I'm going to move this to 47. We'll do 39. We can move this one back, actually. So let's do 44. Why does it jump forward like that? Strange. Okay. Please, I just want this key pasted here. Okay, we're just... Oh, that's why. Because there's no Z there. How about now? Thank you. Okay. So now that we've done that, see, it's on the ground longer. We need to pick up sooner. So we're going to adjust our green here, bring it forward a few frames. Cool. Okay, so now with that adjusted, we're going to do that same thing we did before. So we're going to grab these, grab our translates, right click, copy selected, and then we're going to do that on this foot. So paste. Okay, and then it's doing that same thing, which is weird. So I'll highlight all of these, and then we'll just bring that to the first frame. So now they should be parallel, and then we want to adjust our translate Z like we did before. So we'll move that up to there, just about, and then we're just going to reverse scale this. So that should be good. Cool. So now we want to adjust these. So let's say about here maybe. So that looks much better. But you'll see that one's jumping. So we'll have to adjust that. I wonder why it's happening so much sooner. So I'm going to move this forward so that I can actually copy paste these. I'm going to go to my Control Z, which is the one I want to change. Copy. Yeah, that's very strange. I'm going to delete, paste here. Actually, hold on. I guess this is right, isn't it? I'm just crazy. Yeah, okay. So now we'll try that again. Yeah, this one's frames are all cattywampus. Okay. So what frame is that? 20? Okay. So we have it adjusted 20 frames. This is our Y. Copy. And then paste. So that looks like it screwed it up even more. Paste to be safe. Okay. And we were at 20. So we want to bring that back there. Cool. Okay, so you'll see there's still a little bit of snapping. That is with our red. So translate X. Okay. And the reason for this is just because we don't have them keyed. They're not landing on exactly that frame, so they may be a little uneven. So we're just going through all this to readjust, make sure they're all okay. So copy. Delete all these. Paste. There we go. So now we're going to go to frame 20 again. There we go. Okay, so with that, there. Now you'll see frame 1 and frame 50 are exactly the same. So now if we play, that's a pretty good walk cycle. There's kind of a limp, so we'll just adjust the frame slightly on that. So let's say 1, 2, maybe. Cool. So that's pretty even, right? Nice. So now you have a pretty basic walk. At least the legs are done. And we can swing those out more if we wanted to. So if I grab my scale, see, I'll do translate X for both of these. Or I'll just start with this one first. Let's translate X. And then I can adjust the scale of these so I can make them come out much farther. Not that far. Good enough. That's good enough for tutorial. So triangle will do the exact same thing. So we're just going that way. Just a little more. Okay. So, with that done, we'll want to start adding that hip motion. So now the hip is going to rise and fall with the feet and hips respectively. So since this frame 1 is technically a foot fall, the hips will be coming down the farthest, and then they will be coming up the highest when the hips are rising, or the legs are rising. So in this case, we will bring it down very low. And then right about there, 14, would be the peak. And then it'll come down again. So let's say 28. It's going to lag a little bit behind the feet. And then we can just copy paste that if you want. It's not going to fit in this animation. Yeah, so you see our last key here kind of fell out. So we'll just Control Z that. So in this case, so we can copy that again. We'll paste here. And so technically our reset is falling out of frame. Oops, if I paste properly. Did I not? Maybe I Control Z'd. Copy. Paste. There we go. Okay. So our frame is coming out of the time slider, but since this is a looping animation, we can work around that. So what we'll do is we will highlight these keys, and we'll just bring them back a little bit. Actually, no, that won't work because this is too long of a sequence. So for this, I'm just going to put it at 25. Unfortunately. I mean, that'll probably look fine. I'm trying to glorify this. Okay, so rise and fall is a little extreme. It's not going to rise that quickly. It'll take a little more time. So I'll bring that down a little bit. Or at least we'll ease it some. And then the footfall will happen much faster. I wonder why these aren't happening at frame 50. Very strange. And then we'll say frame 20. So when it gets lower again. Oops, not that low. And we'll copy these, paste at 25. Very strange. I wonder why it's not going to 50. Okay, so that's good. And then we can adjust the height of that a little bit, so you know, might be a little too extreme, so we can just bring that down a bit. Cool. And then we'll want a little hip sway, so if we look forward, our character is just statically walking straight. So the hip is going to move towards the side with priority. So in this case, it'll be the one that, sorry. It's going to be the foot that's stationed on the ground, since that is where the weight is going. So in this case, the foot that was on the ground was our right foot. So our character is going to be coming back in from a lean to that side. But what we're going to do is we're not going to animate that one straight away. We'll go to frame 14. And then most of our weight is going to be going to that side at this part. So we're going to go to our rotate X. We're going to delete those keys. Delete that key. And then we're going to move it right around there. So that looks alright. Then I'll rotate X, we'll hit key selected. And then we're going to do that for all of these side ones. And it just started pouring at my place. So on the other side, key selected. If we go to graph editor, you'll see there's kind of that fun curve right there. So this one is a little tricky because this one does go off the graph. So we gotta kind of try to make our in-between here that we get here. So if we're at 1438, I believe the in-between would be 16. So if we key here, then we'll copy that. We're going to paste this at 50 and 1 respectively. Whoops. Copy, Paste. What is going on? Just copy that. Copy. Paste. Whew, okay, well that's not working. It's 26, what do we have? 0.35? Okay, 0.356. So we want, well, we'll just say 0 to be safe. Screw it. So 0. We want 0 here. We want 0 here. So now with that done, I'm going to highlight those. Copy selected. We're going to go to the very end frame here. Paste. You'll see what that did was that kind of smoothed out that animation. And then, so if we hit this second option, what that's doing is that's kind of making like a straight transition between these peaks. So that'll make this one appear like that one. So that's what we want. There we go. So now we have our kind of weird baby dinosaur awkwardly shimmying side by side. And then we can also do hip rotation at this point too. So this controller, the one that's like these two knobs coming out of the side, is our hip rotation. So now kind of the same idea is going to happen here. So at 14 at the peak, this is when our hips get picked up. So let's do -20. We'll just key that. And at 38, we want +20. Key that. And at 26, we want zeros. Bring up the graph editor. Cool, and now we have a hip rotation. So our knees are a little drastic. They stick out really far. So we can adjust that as well with just the move controller. Oops, I didn't mean to key that. Sorry. So when the leg picks up, it seems to be frame 14. You can move this in. That doesn't need to be going that far. So hit S there. We can actually, yeah, we can actually keep these pretty close the entire time. So if we go to, I think the value before was 7. And then for this one, it's probably -7. Were those moving with the legs before? I don't remember. Probably not. Okay. So that looks much better. So now you have pretty good hip movement here. So now we can do other things, like if we want to adjust our toe spread, just to make the feet look nicer. And we still have more of the body to do, obviously, but this is just kind of random adjustments to make it look nicer. So you'll see there's an option here for toe spread. So when the foot falls, just here, the toes will be spread the most. So let's just do a value of 7. Keep it simple. Oh, and then in your graph editor, since we were hitting S, these are probably keyed already. Yeah. So you want to just go in here, change that. So we'll do 7, key it. And as the foot goes, the toes are going to slowly get less and less spread. So 23 is when the foot begins to pick up. So we'll go 0, key selected. And then they're not going to spread at all at this point when the foot is coming off the ground. So let's do a value of -10, just flat. -10. That's where we want 7 again. And then right before that, the feet would start to spread again, but only right before. So we'll say 46. We'll do -10 still. So now if we watch that foot, does it? Why does it spread? Oh, I forgot. It's because this rig is weird. So their spread is just the toes rotating out. Okay, well, just ignore that. So you get the idea. Okay, and then we can do that exact thing for this foot. So let's see. So the actual footfall at 27. So that would be 7. Key selected. Key selected. Whoops. And this one is going to be, actually, here I'm going to cheat again. This one's trickier because we kind of copied and adjusted the frames of this one. So I'm going to highlight everything, go to toe spread, copy selected, and then I'm going to go to this one, keyframe 1, toe spread, paste selected, and then I'm going to change this toe spread like I did for the other actions. So frame 20 is where we adjusted it to. Bring it over there. And that should look good. Okay, maybe a few frames forward. All these emails. Okay. Okay, so that's good enough. So now, I'm going to do the tail, because the tail is always fun to do when you're doing a walk. So, since we got our curves hiding again, because this is a excuse me, a fantastic rig that I'm coming to realize. Let's see, so Dino Rig joints, tail connect, which one of these was it? If I do show curves, will it come back? Nope. Oh boy. I forgot how to get to this tail. There we go. Okay. Jesus. So now we're going to do kind of a fun motion to coincide with the hip. So we want to do here. So let's see. So we have the right foot is about to rise and the left foot is going to stay on the ground. So that will mean that our right hip is going to raise. So then our tail will go to the left, down a bit. It's basically going to follow the opposite side. It's going to follow the lowest one. Because tails were, are rather, a counterbalance of sorts. So at 14, go a little that way and a little down. Maybe not that much, but we'll adjust it later. Now at 38, it's going to do the same thing, but on the other side. Paste the center there. So right now it's going too much at the same time. We're gonna adjust that. But for now we're gonna just add all these actual frames to the other joints. So now that we have that keyed, and then if we want, since it kind of sinks there, we can go to 25, and then we'll kind of bend it down. And then it's kind of rising with each footfall, so we can make it go up. Maybe not that low, but you know, lower. So I'm just going to put these in the middle here, the sides. Okay, and once you've done that, same thing we've done with the tail every time. Highlight all, copy, and we're going to go down this chain. Copy, paste, copy, paste, copy, paste. Paste. This tail has a lot of joints. Paste. Paste. And paste. Okay. So now if we hit play, you're going to see kind of that weird bobbing motion. Okay. So now what we want to do And this is where it gets kind of tricky, and you have to eye it. It's going to open our graph editor. That's not our graph editor. Here we go. And we're going to slowly push all these curves like an adjustment down, basically. So I have this one selected, so I'm going to highlight all. And I'm going to push these, let's say 2 frames. Actually, no, I'm sorry. I want to push these 2 frames back. So what I forgot to do just now is we want to also copy paste all these at those ends here. So you'll see this is kind of a really wonky one because it's doing that really intense adjustment right at the end there. So we don't want that. So I'm going to grab all that. I'm going to hit that key. Copy. Paste that at the beginning. Okay, and that's fixing those ones. So we actually want to delete all those keys that we just made. Copy pasted. I'm sorry. Getting ahead of myself. So just delete all those. Okay, don't do that. Well, I guess you can. I just have to turn it back on. Okay. Oh, I actually deleted that end frame, didn't I? There we go. Okay. Okay, so that seems to be the visibility control. Is there a way I can just not edit those? Please? What is this FK control shape? Where is this in the outliner? Whatever. Okay. I'm not gonna mess with it further. I'm gonna break something if I do. Okay, so we did that. The frame should be removed. Cool. These should be pretty even enough anyway. And if you want, you can come in and delete these because they should be pretty. So let's see if we come in here, hit S. Just delete these. Alright, that should be good enough. we're going to highlight all this. Copy. Paste. Okay. So now we have that all done. So now we're going to go in here and we're going to start putting these in. And we want them at both ends, like this. So while I'm doing this, I'm just going to go down the curve and do this, so we don't have to backtrack. So to make a sort of flowing tail, what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab all of these keys, except that one because that's annoying. And this is our start, right? This is where it loops. We're going to drag this back to where it would be looping. Excuse me. And we're going to pop this back, let's say, so we have 50 frames. I don't know, what's a good number? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 does not go into 50. We'll just do 3. So 1, 2, 3. So now the first frame, we moved it 3 frames forward. And we're going to do that for all of these. Or move them more. So, I'm sorry. So that one we should move forward 3. And then this one we should move forward 6. 6. So in this one we will move forward 3 times. So let's see, we'll go to 3, and then we'll just align it with that. There we go. And we're going to do that for all of these. So paste. Let's see everything. Paste again at the end. And then multiplying it again. So 6, 9 is where we want our first frame to be. Or our loop, rather. Next one. This can be a lengthy process, but if I'm doing it right, which I think I am, you'll see it's worth it. So now 12. It looks a lot better for it. I believe that's our middle frame. Yeah. Wonder why. I don't know why sometimes the camera adjusts and sometimes it doesn't. Not too sure why that is. I can probably hit F, honestly, and that'll do exactly what I want it to do. Let's see. F. Yep. So what were we at? We were at 18, I believe. Let me just double check. Yeah. So now we're going to be at 21. And just use the time slider as a reference for you. I'll turn those back on because they keep turning off. Okay, and that was all of them. So now that we've done that, let's see if we hit play. You'll see the tail is kind of doing a nice like wavy motion. So that's good. That's that nice motion we want. So now we're going to adjust these. We can just highlight all of them. And then go to our graph editor. So let's see. Which one is our vertical? It's blue. So we'll hit rotate Z on all of these. Then we can select all of these. We'll scale them up. Wait a minute. That's not our rotate. Which one is our rotate up? It's rotate X. My bad. Okay, so we'll do that. Do pretty much what I was just doing. So rotate X, X, X. Highlight all of these. Is there no rotate X on these? Weird. X, 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 X. So it seems you only need to select that first one to highlight all of them, so that's nice, I guess. Since we have all those selected, we can raise them up. So this one didn't seem to get any of those motions, so we'll just paste those in again. There we go, paste at the end. And then I believe we're at 21, so now we want to go to 24. Gonna prematurely adjust our rotate X. There, so now you kind of see, got a kind of a nice tail wave motion. It's kind of like the T-Rex in the TLC. This is always one of my favorite parts to see after. See a nice serpentine tail movement work out. So the end of the tail is still a little stiff. So we may just need to adjust some curves on that end. Oh, that's why. So this one is much farther than it should be. Yeah, we didn't adjust it at the right time. So where's the center on this one? 21, 24. Yeah, we didn't do it right, that's why. There we go. So as the tail goes too, you can adjust kind of the scale the way you see fit. So let's say rotate X on this one. We'll make it a little stronger. Or we'll do rotate X on the third one. Then we'll make this one even bigger. Bigger. And then the ends will be the largest. There we go. Look at that. That's really unrealistic, but it looks so nice. So I'm going to actually go back and adjust that a little bit, because that's a little too crazy. And then we can play while we adjust these two, so we can actually see the change. Cool. And then it's swaying a lot to that side. So we're gonna get, let's see. So now it's our rotate Z. So now we want to get our rotate Z's. And I'm doing this on the other window. Just grabbing all these. Now see, we want our mid to be at 0. So that's probably why it's going a little crazy. So right about there. And now it should be pretty even. So we do top view. It's not quite, so I'll bring it up a little more. There we go. So that's pretty even. There, so now we have a nice tail. So it's a little too wavy. A tail wouldn't be doing that, but you know, that's how you do it. You would adjust just the peaks of those curves to make it less so. So I'm curious, what is this? Can't adjust it. Oh, whatever. Rotate X. I'm gonna bring my rotate for that just a tad down. Actually, I'm gonna do that for both of these. Cool. Now, we can start doing the head and the torso. Okay, so the head moves with it. So keep that in mind when you're doing these parts too. So what I just did, I checked to see if the head moves with the torso, and it does. Because in this case, for something that moves pretty serpentine or bird-like, the head is going to be more or less locked in one spot. Because that naturally, that's just how they walk or move. So while this guy's swaying left and right, that head is pretty much going to be in the middle the entire time. Like not exactly, but it's going to stay as stationary as possible. So, and that's gonna slowly like come up through the body. So, like I said before, in the idle animation, theropods didn't really have too much lumbar support, so this thing's back and stuff isn't going to be going crazy, but it'll move a little bit. So let's just to keep it simple, we're going to go at exactly the same tempo as the rest of the body. So at 14 comes up, 25 it will come down, 38 it will rise once again. Or was it 26 we said that it came up? I think it was 26. 38 it will come back up. 26 is the same for both of these. Okay, so now once we did that, in our graph editor, well, first we'll copy paste these. Now we're going to translate. We can start adjusting these. So they'll be similar to the tail. They'll be a few frames forward. And then you can just kind of start playing with what you think looks best. So that's actually pretty good in the middle right there. And we can do this for the middle part too if we wanted to give it more of that motion. So I'm actually just going to cheat and paste the same exact values in here. And for this one, I'm going to have it be a little bit behind. Actually, I'll put that about there. And I'll put these ones about here. See, like I said before, that's kind of an intense rise and fall. So we can just scale these to fit our needs. And that'll probably rotate a bit too with that motion. So we can, if we want to, so rotate X. So just get rid of that. Let's see, so that's the fall. So rotate down just a tad. And then since I pressed the S key already, I'm going to come up here and I'm going to do key selected. I'll just say that's about 6. Key selected. 14. How much do you want to rise? I'll just say -1 to be safe. Key selected. 26. What did I say it was? 6. 26 is 6. Key selected. 38. -1. Key selected. 56. Key selected. And same thing as before, but we only want that key. So we're going to highlight everything, come up here, and we're going to do copy selected. Then we're going to go to the end, paste selected. Cool. And then we want to put that to about the same place as our translate X. So let's say our mid is at 9. Come on, mouse. There you go. See, it's starting to come along once you get the body motion going. Then we can have kind of a head bob if we want. That's always fun. So if that would come forward slightly, down. Copy that. Paste here. Same thing. Paste here. And at 14, it'll rise just a tad. Copy 38. paste, same thing. And then pretty much all the same stuff that we've been doing for every other part, honestly. It's an undulating motion, which is why the keys are slightly off, because the root of the motion, where all the actual force is coming from, is the hips. So that's why we did the legs first, and then we went to the hips, and then from there, you can see if you look at it, like that's where the tail motion is coming from, and up here. So now that we did that with the head, let's come up here, frame them, and then what were we at, 9 on that? So let's do 5. We won't go as intense. I think this is the middle. Okay, and now here we want that actual head motion to be pretty even. So that is our X. So we want to get rid of X. So he starts pretty even here, so that's good. So key selected. And when he moves to the side, so that's about 14. We don't need it to be perfectly center like this, obviously. But you know, close is nice. So we'll just do -3. Key selected. It's going to be at 0 again here. 38. It's going to be +3. Key selected. 0. So it looks kind of weird because of how much the hips are actually moving side to side. So if we wanted to, we can actually adjust that, which I'm going to because I want to. So I'm going to grab the middle here with the scale tool. I'm going to just come in and slowly decrease those. And then because we did that, we can adjust the head as well. So 14.3 probably isn't as intense as we need it. Yeah, so -1 is fine here. Key 1. Much better. The other thing too, this is just me being nitpicky, but the legs probably will not go this high when it is just normally like walking. So we can adjust that if you feel the need to. I do, so I'm going to. So I'm going to grab these peaks, or actually just the whole thing, and then I'm going to scale them down. Gonna scale them some more. So that's probably fine. Actually, we can pick it up a little more. Let's try 7. Yeah, it's pretty good. Now that I'm saying that, it doesn't look high enough. I think it's just the hip movement. And on this rig, you can't seem to actually control the hip, which is unfortunate. So I'm going to select these yet again. I'll try 9. So that should be good. And then the point when the foot begins to pick up. Yeah, so these spots, whoops, switch to your move tool, would most surely be higher. There we go. Okay, gonna bring him, whoops, bring him down. No, down please, thank you. Now just a little more. Cool. Now we can adjust our Z if we want, because that's still very sudden. Whatever. Okay. We can do a head or a jaw movement if we want. So when it's bobbing its head. What is this? It's when it comes down. Yeah, so we'll do kind of a slight mouth open. Mouth will close. And then we'll just alternate between that. So we can copy 26, paste 39. Oh, that's different. Copy. Copy. Cool. Same thing as every other joint so far. Paste. Stretch it out. Come in here. Oh, we want to rotate X. So we'll match that to our bob. So let's say, I don't know. There we go. We can change these if we want to. Yeah, so our shoulders would probably kind of have a little weight to them too, since the arms are kind of just hanging there. So, on the foot falls, the arms will come down. Probably nothing too crazy. On the rise, they will come up again. Copy. Paste. And the other thing too is I'm being very exact with my measurements. So like, you know, it doesn't need to be absolutely even. The looping one does, because otherwise you'll see a change. But so let's say 14 here and then 38. You know, they don't have to be at exactly the same, like, they don't need to drop down at exactly the same. So let's see, we have -2 here, and then we have -1. So that's fine, because then you'll see during animation, like, it's a little more natural, because it's not symmetrical. So we can do that with, like, the tail and the hip and the head and, you know, all of that stuff. We don't need to do it as exactly as I've been doing it. Basically, the kind of general rule is, so we're going by rise and fall, right? So basically the peaks, we want it, let's say at a positive value to be safe, or in this case I think it's just like 0. I'm not sure. Actually, I'm not too sure, to be honest. Oh, that's the rise. I'm okay. I was getting myself confused. But yeah, so we'll just rise that a little bit. So yeah, so like this is the rise. So let's say general rule, you want it the higher value, and then the recesses, the dips, you wanted a lower value. So that's kind of the general rule. It doesn't need to be exactly the same. Like it could be -2, it could be -3, whatever. Just as long as the looping point is the same. Because otherwise when the animation loops, you'll see there's a jump. So like, let's say 50, we have -2, and then when we have -3, you're going to see in the span of 1 frame, it's going to go from 2 to 3. And that looks really choppy and bad. So, now we've done that. Now we can do some little rotations on these guys. So see, I'm not going to follow it exactly the same. So that'll be the raise. $26 is the fall again. 38 is the raise. And the looping frame is the same. So like there, I didn't follow the exact measurements. I just kind of eyed it. So that'll look fine. And the arms will do the same thing. So this is the fall. It's 14. Actually, I guess they'd be more out. And then 14 would be when it curls. And then on the loop, copy, paste. Okay, so now that once we've done that, I'm going to just select all of these. I'm going to adjust all of their frames at the same time. Okay, to be safe, I'm just going to highlight these ones because I don't want to interfere with that claw curl option. Which actually, you know what? We can. Just kidding. Okay, so we're gonna come here. We're gonna adjust that again. So that's out and then in. Whoops. Okay, and out and then in. Okay, so now we did that. Gonna highlight those again and just cheat control click and drag. Okay, now that we have all those, make sure you do the copy paste thing so that you put them at the end. And why I'm doing this is you'll see when I'm dragging these, there won't be any frames if we drag them that far. So this just let's do 7. This just makes it so that it still has frames to loop through. So there. So I'm going to actually adjust this one so okay, so this one you'll see I did a little differently, and I think it looks better for it. So this one I made it so instead of lagging behind the back, there's kind of weight in the core here, and that is what's bringing the back up, or the back up. So you'll see when it falls down, the arms and shoulders are the first to come back up, and that kind of gives it that sense of weight that's coming from the general torso area, and it's what's bringing the body back up. So at this point, honestly, I'd say we're about done with our walking animation. So we got a nice fun fluid tail. Got some good motion on our dinosaur. We can do some feet adjustment, but that's kind of just rotations and stuff. But it looks pretty good for almost 4 hours. There was a few hiccups here and there, but you know, when is there not? So the other thing too, so I was doing the actual move a lot for this, but in some cases it could just be rotate. Oops. So like instead of the actual torso moving side to side, which did I key it side to side? I didn't. So what we can do here too, and that would make it look a little nicer from the front, is every time it does like a bob to one side. So let's say this is our neutral, so that's fine. So I'll go rotate X, key selected, 14. I'll rotate it. Oh, that's not X. Whoops. I deleted the wrong set of keys. Yeah, I wanted Y. I'm sorry. So we're going to delete Y. And that one, key selected, 14, let's say, I don't know, let's do -5. Key selected, 0 again, key selected, and we'll do +5, key selected, and 0. Okay, we're going to open that, we're going to get just that one. Or actually we want to highlight, paste these again. So copy, paste selected, cool. Make sure those are evenly distributing. And then we want these about the same time. Okay, that looks better. And then we can rotate the head with that too. So I'm curious. So that's also rotate Y. So I'm going to cheat here. And I'm just going to paste that exact rotation from... That scared me. From that one. It's the same thing. Make sure those are the second option, not the first, because that's starting neutral going down, and then this is just straight going down. And then we're going to adjust this one the same as well. So let's say 1, 2. Cool. So now we have kind of just a nicer movement, so it doesn't look so up and down, side to side. There's actual rotation. So now if you look from the top, you can see it's kind of a nice like curve going along. And then when we do this too, we could have kept probably that more intense hip movement that I was doing. Cool. So let's see if we go to 60 FPS. And we're going to bring this to 124. So it skips that looping frame. Nice. So that's a pretty good walk, guys. I would personally do some hip adjustment stuff, but we can't on this rig. So you can see all the nice motion we added. So you can see the hip is actually rising and falling. The shoulders are kind of working against the body to carry that weight. We got the really nice tail movement. Unrealistic, but you know, it looks really nice. Who doesn't like a fluid tail? Got a nice head bob. A little toe spread. It comes back together when it takes the step. So, looking good, guys. Got some nice movement going on. So I'm going to stop. Max this back out again, switch to 24 frames per second. And I didn't save it all, so I'm really lucky that didn't crash at all. Remember to save often while this is going on. So continue. Got our ground move forward. Cool. Okay. Well, I think that'll be it for this tutorial. Yeah, that worked out really well, guys. Awesome. So I hope this helped. Let me know on my Discord if you have any questions or anything. You know, this is kind of a teaching lesson thing, so if you guys are actually following along and trying to learn, I'd be happy to help. I think that'll be it for the stream. So, thank you, everyone that was watching. I'll post this to YouTube once it uploads and everything. And I'll see you all next Monday for the next tutorial. So, good night, everybody.